Hello, hello. Haha, no F1 going on. No F1, unfortunately. But I'm still here. I'm still here. Hopefully tell me if I'm a bit too loud, guys, because I've got a new set of headphones. And I'm getting used to them still. So if it sounds like I'm coming across too loud, just let me know, and I can always adjust my audio levels. So it's the first time I've gone live with them. But yeah, welcome everyone. Hope it's good. I thought we'd go live, just have a chat, you know, just have a little chit chat, because not much has really happened, has it? It's been a bit of a boring first summer week of the summer break. Where's this silly season that we're all promised? Where's the Cadillac announcements? When are we going to know who's driving for Caddy? When do we know if Yuki Tsunoda's going to be at Red Bull next season? You know, it's so boring at the moment, guys. Unbelievable. But I do have some content planned for you all, so do not fear. And it's just an option to go live when I'm still on some parental leave at the moment. Not sure why the chat isn't showing up on the screen. There we go. So you're going back to school soon? What, is your 6 weeks holiday already ended? Unless you're in a different country, of course. But yeah, welcome everyone. I'm very well, thank you. Hope you are too. Volume is grand, perfect, lovely jubbly. Yeah, I'm just getting used to these new headphones because they don't let as much sound out. So my voice sounds like it's a bit more muffled, but of course I know that's not the case. So, do I know Lando? Of course I do. Hello, Andrew. Good to see you. But yes, welcome everyone. Hope you're good. Yes. How many weeks have we got left now without F1? 2 more weeks, isn't it? Have we had 1 week now? We've had 1 week, so it's not. Next week isn't race week. It's the week after, isn't it? So that's when we've got another race, which is at Zandvoort. But yeah, plenty of content still. I'm sure there'll still be some news that comes through in the coming weeks. But normally the summer break, we normally get news in the first week, so maybe it's not the same pattern this time around. So you can chat with me, Andrew, without being interrupted by other chatters. I don't hate any driver, Minty. No, there are some. Hate's a very strong word. I don't hate any driver. I dislike some more than others. I say dislike. Is there any that I particularly dislike? I wouldn't say dislike. There are some that I'm not that big of a fan of, to be honest. So, and I think should have had their time in F1 and should move on. You could probably guess who they are. So, been a quiet time with no news on any announcements. It has been, Carl. Yeah, it has been really. I mean, so this week, I am prepping it for you guys. I'm deciding whether to do it Friday or the week. I'm actually out this weekend, so maybe Friday. I'm going to do some mid-season awards. I've got 12 categories, which I have put together. I'm going to provide you guys 4 options that we can do a live poll on each category. I've decided on the nominations, and we can get involved, and you guys can have a community vote on which one you think should be deserving of the award. And of course, I will give my own award to it as well. So you'll have the community award and my award, and it just gives us a bit of discussion points and looking back at what has already been a very long season. We've already had 14 races. I mean, in times gone past, F1 was only 16 races in a season. So there's lots that has gone on this season. So I thought, why not have a look back at what has happened at the start of the year, or just the first half of this season, just over it, and have some fun and have some votes that we can all get discussing on. So, and it provides me some content as well that I can cut down into videos, you know. Always thinking ahead. Hey, Abby, love from India. Welcome, buddy. How do I think Cadillac will perform in F1, Haker? It's a complete unknown, to be honest with you. They could. So in times gone by, you would probably suspect that they wouldn't hit the ground necessarily running. A new team very rarely does, unless it's like a freak example, says Brawn GP, but they was already an existing team anyway, just obviously rebadged. But 2026 is such an unknown that you just don't know. A lot of it is going to be dependent on the engine, as we know. They're taking Ferrari engines, so if Ferrari smash it with the engine, they could be competing with Ferrari, arguably, for the title. But I think that's a tall order. I think for them, they'd be looking to come in and just ensure that they can fight for points on the regular. The last thing that they want to do is join the grid and be fighting at the back. So, but we're still yet to know who's going to be joining. The reports were that we were going to get an announcement last week. It hasn't come, so maybe they're holding off. Maybe it's at the end of the summer break, or maybe it's not till the end of the year that we actually get confirmation on who's going to be in those 2 seats. But I think Sergio Perez is kind of a worst kept secret up and down the paddock, you know. So mid-season award sounds fun. Yeah, and yeah, keep it interactive and keep the content coming for you guys. So, and I love doing the live streams. Rainbow, what do I think about Orlando and Piastri rivalry? Do I think it exists? Of course it exists. Yeah, there'll be. I think they're keeping things respectful. Are they friends? I think maybe they're not close friends, but they're obviously respectful to each other. They're work colleagues. But ultimately, they're fighting each other for a championship. So, yeah, it's going to get as... It's all well and good now, but wait until we've got 10 races remaining. Wait until we get, obviously, those races start dwindling down. And it gets closer and closer, especially if it's still close in the championship as it is at the moment. That's really going to be... I think it's going to get feisty. So... would it be a award for worst driver? There will be Parasite. Yeah, I've got some... It's not all happy-go-lucky, Parasite. I've got some... I'm not going to spoil the categories that I've got. But yes, there are some ones in there. Obviously, I've tried to cover everything, really. And pick out like some moments and things like that as well. So yeah, I will let you guys know. I will put the live stream up ready once I've got everything sorted for it. When I say sorted for it, it's like a PowerPoint. I just need to do a PowerPoint presentation. That's what I'm trying to put together, and then I'll set the stream up when I know, obviously, when I'm going to go live. So, which driver do I root for to win the championship, Lando or Oscar? Oof. So I won't lie to you. I have said this before. I am leaning slightly towards more Lando, not because of the British biasness. Nope. Do not think it's that. It's primarily, as I said before, I think he has got a real unnecessary amount of hate online. I feel like no matter what he says, he cannot do right in people's eyes. I think either would be great for F1 because they'd both be a brand new world champion. And I do rate Oscar very highly. I mean, he's fighting for a world championship in his 3rd season in F1. That's brilliant. But I love kind of like sticking 2 fingers up to people, really, that dish out this unnecessary hate, especially in the current era of F1 that we're in, especially with online, with fans. And I think it would be absolutely amazing and to see the crash outs of people that they would have online if Lando wins. So that's kind of why I'm leaning a little bit towards him. But ultimately, I just want to see a close championship battle that hopefully, fingers crossed, goes down to the last race of the season. Morning, Red. Good to see you. Who do I think Yuki will get replaced by? I think it would be either Lawson or Hadjar who would be promoted back up into the team. So the Red Bull situation is pretty much Yuki looks like he's going to be out at the end of the season because of his Honda connection and with Ford coming in. And I don't see that changing unless maybe Honda stump up some more cash for him. But he only has this year on his contract left. He only had this year even when he was in the RB seat. Lawson, if he continues on the remainder of this season really well, they may promote him back up into the 2nd seat, or they may promote Hadjar. But I think Arvid Lindblad is pretty much guaranteed that he's going to be in F1 next season, who's currently in F2. He's very highly rated in the Red Bull stable. And for any of those drivers, next season would be a great year to get into Red Bull because it's a fresh reset. It's a brand new set of regulations. There's no guarantee that Max Verstappen is going to be in that seat, of course, at the end of 2026 as well. So it's a great time to get in there and to learn the ropes and not be getting into a seat that is going to be super difficult to handle, like obviously Yuki has found out recently. Is the engine for Ferrari gives to Haas the same as the one they use in their car? Yes. Yes, it's the same power unit. But then all the other components, the chassis, the aero, etc., is well, I think they still get parts from Ferrari. I think they buy some parts from Ferrari still. Yeah. But obviously, how they utilize it is very different. And they get like this, there's certain. It's a bit tricky with that because when they buy stuff from them, they can't just like buy the same parts because otherwise it's like a second Ferrari. But they have to do things in their own way, in a roundabout way. So, will Lando and Oscar collide again? I think so. Yeah, I mean Oscar's nearly collided with Lando twice, with literally a couple of inches separating them. I think there's. I mean, I would love to see the gap again. I haven't seen the footage of it from above since, but Oscar nearly T-boned, or I say T-boned, nearly hit the rear of Lando into Hungary. He nearly did it in the Red Bull ring. It's going to happen at some point. It is going to happen. So, yeah, Lindblad does look good in F2. Yeah, he's really highly rated by Red Bull. He's going to be in F1 next year in that RB seat. It then depends on where he goes, who moves out for him, basically. Oh, thank you, Minty. Thank you for the New Zealand dollar.
Minty SNZ donated $1 New Zealand dollar through Super Chat.
Will Hamilton leave F1? Not now, no. Not until after 2026. Nope. Anyone who thinks otherwise, I think is kind of kidding themselves. No. This year, we've done a couple of videos, of course, from Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. I've had a bit of backlash, to be fair, from the Lewis Hamilton one. But is what it is. Passionate F1 fans, of course. Lots of passionate Charles Leclerc fans as well. But, yeah, no, look. This year was always going to be... I mean, Ferrari have just massively effed up. We know that. They changed their concept from last year, and it hasn't worked. Massively backfired. Still don't... Someone still needs to answer to that, because I do think that they could have had an opportunity of pushing McLaren this year and made it a bit closer, but they didn't. So, thank you for the other New Zealand dollar. I don't know why the sound's not working, by the way.
Minty SNZ donated $1 New Zealand dollar through Super Chat.
Through. I did have it turned on. So, apologies, but thank you, Minty. Do I think Leclerc would be better in another team, or do you think you should stay at Ferrari? So, we discussed this on the stream last time around. There is going to come a time where Charles, yes, needs to seriously assess his situation. And obviously the dream is to win a title with Ferrari, but he may never win a title with Ferrari. These new regs are going to be in for the next 3 years. He's still young enough. He's 27, so he's not even anywhere near 30 yet. But if Ferrari do get off to this new set of regulations to a slow start and they're like the third fastest car, he may look elsewhere. He may look elsewhere. I'm sure his team will do some positioning for his seats with other teams. But the thing is that it's not going to be easy to move. Like, with respect to Charles, yes, he is highly rated by a lot of people, but Max is going to be looking to move as well. So if Mercedes come out and they are the top car, well, they've already got George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Let's say those two are dominating. Are they going to want to get Charles Leclerc? Are they going to want to drop both of those and also get Max Verstappen as well? I think we know still that Max would probably, one of those two would be dropped for Max's services. But Max is going to be in there first rather than Charles. So I think really he's stuck at Ferrari for a little while. I really do. I don't think it's as easy as him. I don't think he has as much stock up and down the paddock. He definitely doesn't have as much stock as what Max Verstappen does. And we pretty much know that if Red Bull aren't at the top of the tree come the end of next season, Max is knocking on the door of whoever is at the top of the tree to get in that seat. So, still no update from Merck yet for next year's. No, not yet, Frasserson. No. So let's have a look actually at next season's. Let's have a look. I had it here. So this is the driver lineup for next year. This is on Sky. And well, we can see Lando and Oscar are secure. Ferrari is secure. Mercedes, we still don't know. Which you just mentioned. The second Red Bull seat, we don't know. Max is now confirmed he's staying for the end of, or at least next year. Albon and Sainz, Alonso, Stroll, Hulkenberg and Bortoleto for Audi. The Racing Bulls, we don't know. The second Alpine seat is also one we don't know. Colapinto is rumoured to be staying in that second seat to the end of the season. Supposedly there is some merch that's coming out with his sponsors on it. So that indicates that he's going to be in that seat to the end of the year unless something drastic changes. And then Cadillac, we don't know. But Mercedes, I think we'll probably get an announcement at Zandvoort. I think that's what we'll probably do. Or maybe at the end of the summer break when the news has kind of been quiet. And then it's like, yeah, there we go. They're signed for next year. So, hey, Gavin, good to see you. But summer break's going well. That's why I kind of went live today because I was just a bit bored, you know? It's nothing on TV. I've watched all my TV series. Battlefield 6 is... The beta's ended at the moment. And that doesn't come out again until the end of this week, which I absolutely loved this weekend playing. Really like a blast from the past, that was. So, yeah, I'm a bit of a... like no man's land at the moment. So I thought, why not go live and just chat? Just chat about F1 with you guys, you know? Because you're probably feeling the same. You're probably feeling the same. Rank these battles: Hamilton versus Leclerc, Leclerc versus Verstappen. Or Hamilton versus Verstappen, Leclerc versus Verstappen. Well, we haven't really seen Leclerc versus Verstappen. Hamilton versus Verstappen is at the top of the tree because we saw a championship battle between the two of them. And of course, for the duration of a season as well. So whereas Leclerc and Verstappen we've only seen in brief moments, and Oscar and Lando, I mean, it could get to the top if it goes on for the remainder of the season. We've seen them tangle a couple of times. We've seen them battle out on track a few times already. I think we're going to see more of that come the end of the season. So, what are my predictions for the Drivers' Championship at the end of the year? Yeah, my predictions are just... I don't know. It really can go either way. My hope is just that it... My hope is that it at least goes down to the last race of the season where there's less than 7 points separating them. And it's basically winner takes all. Whoever wins that last race in Abu Dhabi wins the championship. That's what we want to see. That would be my ideal scenario. Doesn't always play out that way, but I hope it does. Norris versus Oscar boring as per popular opinion. Do I think Verstappen has a better temper than before? No. I think Verstappen is as temperamental as he's always been. We saw that in Spain. What we've just seen from Max over the past few years is that he's been comfortably out up front because of how good of a driver he is, because we've seen how difficult that Red Bull car is to drive. Comfortably beat his teammate, who is in the next best machinery, and he hasn't had to worry. But in the brief moments where he has had to find himself fighting, even in that era where he was dominant, Hamilton in Brazil, if you remember, he pretty much drove into the side of him there. Obviously, we saw him get temperamental in that race as well with Sergio Perez, primarily because of what Sergio did back in Monaco with that red flag in qualifying. He was still miffed at that. And then we've seen these flashes of the temperament. Hamilton again with Hungary. I mean, it does always seem to be that whenever he comes up against Hamilton, he sees red mist. And then George Russell in Spain as well. So that temperament is still there. He is maturing, of course he is, as you do with age. But he is still very temperamental, and he can still have those moments, definitely. Will the point system change next year when there will be 11 teams? We don't know yet. That's a very good question. There was discussion of it earlier on this year or the end of last year about maybe the points going down to maybe 12th place or the top 15 getting points. I can imagine that there might be the top 12 get points. So at the moment, half of the field gets points. So maybe they'll do that with 22 cars. So no, that'd be 11 cars, wouldn't it? So top 11 gets points. Sorry. I've said this before. I think I personally would like to see maybe the top 12 get points. Not the top 15. Maybe top 15. I think a few more positions should get points, especially in the sprint race. I think the sprint races have definitely... Why is there only 8 point? Why is it only 8 positions that get points? That's absolutely ridiculous. Like you're making the majority of the field, like sprint races, worthless to them, other than kind of glorified practice sessions in race trim, because like they're not going to be able to gain that many positions in a sprint race, and people aren't going to take that many risks when it comes to it. But yeah, I think maybe pushing it out to 12 or 13 if we're going to have 22 cars next year. I think a couple of extra positions would make maybe those fights a little bit more worthwhile, you know, because sometimes we do get really close battles for like 13th or 14th, and it would make things a little bit more interesting when it comes to that. But I don't know. Hey Rob, good to see you, mate. Yeah, Max and Leclerc have only had a few battles, while Max and Lewis has had many battles, while 2021 was just Max and Lewis every race, 50 seconds ahead of pre-free. Yeah, I think 2021, regardless of the end, if you remove the end, and of course Max had his moments, of course he did, in kind of going over the line, Brazil mostly. But if you look at their performance, Lewis and Max over the duration of that season, I think there's only maybe a handful of times throughout the history of F1 where you've seen two drivers of two different teams be completely dominant over the rest of the field. I mean, Bottas and Perez were just not even within that championship fight at all. Like, they were so often 1-2, Lewis and Max, and they were so often so much quicker than the rest of the field. Like, yeah, it's just, they were brilliant that season, absolutely brilliant. Of course, the wheel-to-wheel racing was a little bit left to be desired, but the performance from both of those and some of the drives that they both pulled out of the bag that season was just, yeah, top tier. Not enough rivalry between Oscar and Lando, at least yet. I want to see more aggression from both. I think that will come, Alfie. Yeah, I think this whole papaya rules and this respectfulness, I think to an extent that's okay now, but we got 10 races remaining. After the summer break, I think things are going to spice up some more. They've got to. They've got to. There's got to come a moment where, like, one of them, like, the racing rules are there, right? The racing rules are there to your advantage. We've seen Oscar utilise them much better than Lando, i.e. the head of the apex rule. That's going to cut... There's going to be a contentious issue at some point in the remaining races where, one, I think they collide, definitely touch. Two, that rule was utilised. It's more likely that Oscar's going to utilise that rule than Lando. And that's going to ruffle some feathers, and that could be the turning point in the closing stages of this season. So, but yeah, I know. I think it's the fact that Lando was able to keep the championship. The fact that Lando was able to reduce the points advantage back down to 9 points rather than let it increase to 22, which is what could have been the case if Oscar won at the weekend. Won in Hungary. Nearly a race win difference, is that Oscar will be more aggressive next time around. Definitely. If a scenario like that happens, and this whole papaya rules is going to be completely thrown out the window when those two are just racing wheel to wheel. So the engineers will try, because we know what the engineers are like, how they're always trying to calm them down, but thanks, Max. Much appreciated. Frazen, if you're not mistaken, you read last year if it was unanimously agreed there will be no point change, but I don't know if it's changed. That might have been for this season, but it might not be for next season. There is a new Concord agreement that is going to be put in place at the end of this year as well. I don't think the point system is part of the Concord agreement, but it may very well be discussed, of course, with Cadillac joining. So. Oh, nice one, Rob. It's always nice to get a bit of new sim racing equipment. Do I think Lando is on track to win the championship and for constructors with McLaren? Well, the constructors is already wrapped up because they've got more than double the amount of points than Ferrari. This is why they're allowed to fight. This is why each side of the garage is allowed to utilise different strategies as well, which we very rarely see in F1. So that's also intriguing for us because it provides us scenarios like we saw at the Red Bull Ring, also what we saw at Hungary in particular, where one's on a two-stop, one's on a tries to undercut. We very rarely see that in Formula One with teammates who are fighting it out for a championship. But because the advantage is so big, McLaren, and we have to tip our cap to them, they're able to let them fight like that. So, do I think Lando and Oscar will end up similar to Nico and Lewis? I don't. No, because I don't think Lando. I think more so Lando doesn't have it in him. I think Lando is just generally a nice lad. And I think he wants to keep things respectful. I mean, he has said that as well. He goes, there's a way that I want to win a championship. And you have to an extent, like, appreciate that. But, yeah, I don't think it would get that way between them. I don't think Oscar's also like that either. I think Oscar is someone that, if he's upset, he won't really show it. Like, he's very just kind of straight-faced. You'll know if he's upset, but you won't see him act out on it, I think. I don't think he's really that sort of person. That's what I've seen from the outside. I mean, I don't know either of them personally, but that's what it seems like from the outside. So, hey, Alan, good to see you. Evening. How much truth in the rumour that Porsche Racing Bulls will be sold to Porsche to enforce the one company, one team rule? Good question. Let's have a look. Racing Bulls. I swear I saw this somewhere. Where has this come from, though? I mean, where have they got that from? I mean, I don't trust these pages. I mean, yeah, so the reason apparently they pulled out of the deal with Red Bull and being an engine partner was that Christian Horner didn't want to relinquish so much control. And that's why the Porsche deal fell through. Now, fun fact, the whole reason we are having these engine regulations right now and why they're being changed up so significantly is because of Porsche. F1 wanted Porsche to come into F1, and they're only going to come into F1 if the regulations were changed in a specific way. And they did it. Hence why we've got the 2026 regs and how obviously the system now works, which I'm still getting my head around. And then they pulled out and left us with these engine regs that no one seems to be really happy with. So it may be the case that they go with Racing Bulls. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? Obviously, a complete new direction for the team with Christian Horner moving away. It seems like that the power struggle within Red Bull has come maybe to an end to a certain extent, if the reports are to be believed. In particular, the Taif side of the family. So they had 49% share, and then there was a 2% share which was separate, which was owned by one of the Thai family members, and he supposedly has divested that 2% share now. That's what gave him a controlling stake, and I don't think they've got that anymore. So that's why the Mateschitz family have now kind of gained more significant control over the operations of Red Bull. Hence why Horner left. That was a significant factor apparently. So I don't know. Maybe. I mean, Porsche is a big deal. I mean, how would that go down with Ford? I don't know. I mean, but if Porsche are going to come in, would Red Bull be willing to let Racing Bulls go entirely and then Porsche take that over? I don't know, but I'll keep an ear out though. Gavin, you heard Aston selling the team to its full extent to Lawrence because they were losing money. Yeah, so we looked at that last time. Aston have lost a significant amount of... Aston Martin, the car company, has lost a significant amount of... I mean, their profits are well down. They've been losing money a lot, and they've divested their shares to ensure that they've got some... I think it was around 110, 120 million pounds, but they've still got that naming rights or something. Let me see if I can find that, actually. So it was on X. I think I saved a tweet in my bookmarks. Where's oh no, bookmarks. This one. So Aston Martin, the car company, actually owns 4.6% of Aston Martin, the team. But that's still worth 110 million. So it'll be welcome cash injection. But I think I saw somewhere that they're actually still got naming rights or something. Yeah, I don't think Horner's dismissing involved Porsche. I think there was the news that came out was that Horner was a factor in Porsche stepping away. Now, I'm sure that probably ruffled a number of feathers at the time, but Horner was in a much better position and standing with the owners of the team when that deal fell through. So, with the 2026 regs, Carl, can I see any teams doing any loopholes in their designs or not? I'm sure they will be. Yeah, I mean, that's always the aim of the game, is to try and see if you can gain a significant advantage by finding loopholes in the regs. Of course, that will be the aim of many teams, but it's beyond me. I'm not a car designer. I don't know where those gains would come from, but yeah, it's definitely an avenue that teams will be looking at. But where that advantage will come from and that particular loophole, who knows? Naming rights will continue, yeah. What did someone say about Max? Someone said something else about Max, I'm not entirely sure. All my thoughts on Lance Stroll, and do I think he'll keep his seat at Aston? He's overstayed his welcome in F1. He's the most fortunate driver in F1 history. No other driver in the history of F1 has had their dad own the team and employed their son as a driver. I believe I'm correct in that sense, guys. You can correct me if not. And that is why he has been fortunate enough to, regardless of results, maintain a seat in F1. Every seat prior to his Aston Martin seat was because his dad put up a lot of cash. Williams, Racing Point at the time. Now, of course, his dad owns a team in Aston Martin. His dad's goal is to make his son a world champion. Simple as. That's why many people have assumed, and maybe they're assuming correctly, that Lance Stroll doesn't actually want to be in F1. He doesn't actually enjoy it. He's there because of his dad's ambitions, not his own. That very well may be the case. I think many of you have experienced pushy parents at some point or another in your life, some more than others. And yeah, sometimes parents want to live vicariously through their children and want their children to achieve what they could not. Sometimes that isn't the best thing for their kids. And I think that's what Lawrence Stroll is particularly doing with his son Lance. And we mentioned it last time around with the appointment of Newey, with obviously having an own team. Everything is geared around making his son a champion. And anyone who thinks that if they are given a championship winning car, that Fernando Alonso next year would be the lead driver and will win that championship has another thing coming. Because there is no way in hell that Lawrence Stroll is allowing Alonso to beat his son in a championship battle next year. He will hamper that car massively. And it will be the biggest crash out in F1 history, because Alonso's all happy-go-lucky now, but if he's got a championship-winning car next year and his car is being particularly slowed to allow Lance to finish ahead of him, which is a very big possibility. You never know. No one knows who's going to be the quickest in 2026. That'd be a very interesting watch. Lance is a very lucky driver indeed, but he isn't the best driver, but he has really good moments, but his consistency knocks him down. Look, the way I put it, Gavin, is that we have seen moments from a lot of drivers in the past, but Lance has the most Q1 exits in F1 history for a reason. He also has a highlight reel of many embarrassing moments, probably more so than any other driver. And there's a reason for that. And any other driver would have been let go after 2-3 years, let alone be held on to for 8-9 years. I think it's his 9th year in F1. So next year he's going to be in F1 for 10 years. I mean, and there's plenty of talent that there's been plenty of talent that's come through that hasn't been given an opportunity in F1. But we know, unfortunately, that money is a massive factor into whether or not you get an opportunity in motorsport in general, let alone when it comes to F1. So, Mr. Petty, good to see you, mates. If there was any justice, then Brazil 2024 would have been Stroll's last race. What happened in Brazil 2024? Oh, yeah, the parking in the gravel. I forgot about that. It's just one of many. It's just one of many. And I've said this before, and I do think some people have gone over that line of criticising Lance Stroll into what really is abuse, I think. He is still a human being. You do see moments where he is still very kind to fans and things like that. And I can understand why he doesn't come across very nicely in the press and things like that, because he knows that they aren't speaking very kindly of him, and some online in particular are not speaking very kindly of him. And there's already, as well as there is in today's world, that because of his situation of where he finds himself in, of obviously his team being owned by his dad and things like that, people already have this perception of you. And I've been guilty of this as well, I won't lie. And I try not to be too harsh on him, but there's a difference between being critical of him and thinking, look, his time has come to an end and he's overstayed his welcome in the sport because he's just not good enough, which is fair, to then go in and calling him certain names and saying certain things, which goes beyond that online, which unfortunately many people do. You've not liked him since he put Brendan Hartley in the wall in 2018 Canadian GP. I forgot about that, to be honest with you. Hey, all good to see you, mate. People think Lance Stroll is a bad driver, but on his day he's very good, but not fit for F1. Well, this is it, but the thing is, on your day is not good enough. Sport, top echelon is sports. Any sport. It's not about how well you perform on your good day, it's about how you perform on your bad day. And that's where the best separate themselves. And especially in a sport in F1, where there's only a limited amount of positions, your bad days obviously get very highlighted. They get picked up upon, compared to, say, football, where you can kind of get lost in a team sport. You know, you can if you have a bad day, you can maybe hide behind like your team having a good day overall and things. You don't necessarily have to be the best of the best there. But in F1 in particular, where it is seen as a top echelon of motorsport for most anyway, there's no hiding. There is no hiding. Hey, Aaron, good to see you. Social media being unregulated is the worst thing humanity has ever allowed. Yes. It's a fine line, regulation. I'm not going to go down that route because it's politics and we don't talk so much there. But yeah, I mean, that's why I don't spend too much time and I mean, even now, I mean, some of the stuff about like girlfriends and things like that I'm seeing online is just like, come on, like just leave the guys alone, you know. But I guess that's the popularity of F1, is that as sports becomes more popular, people get more invested in people's personal lives, don't they? But yeah, do I think Stroll even wants to be there? Well, this is it. I did speak to someone who used to work in the paddock. He doesn't work there anymore, and he said that they had heard the Strolls having plenty of shouting matches. There were plenty of reports of that as well. They heard them, and the consensus coming out of Aston Martin was that he doesn't, not that he doesn't want to be there, but he's mostly doing this for his dad rather than he is for himself. So I'm too harsh on Stroll. When the camera TV feed cuts to an incident, Lance is there too often for so many years. And that's the problem, Max, yeah. And that's why, look, you're just not good enough. And as well, people will defend Stroll. And it's kind of it's no fault of his own, by the way. This has obviously all been put in position from his dad. Stroll's junior career, because people defend Stroll, obviously, for his junior career, which on paper does look good. But there is context behind that he he was in the best, I think in F3 in particular, he was in the best, I think it was Prima or something. He was in the best team, which was paid for obviously by his dad. And then there was stipulations in place that Lance Stroll had to have the best car, all the best parts, and his teammates were not allowed to beat him. And there is evidence to back that up as well. So while Stroll looks good on paper with his results, that doesn't tell the whole story. But that's also not Lance's fault. Lance isn't in control of that. His dad has influenced that. And the people who make those decisions at that team have influenced that. So, you've been watching me since 5K. Oh my goodness. We've got a few more zeros on the end since then. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, the channel has massively evolved since 5K. It started out being sim racing. It still is sim racing, but not as much anymore. Primarily, if you're wondering where the sim racing has disappeared to, guys, it's primarily Little One. I just don't get the free time anymore to do as much sim racing as I'd like. And of course, with F1, F1 has massively taken off and grown this channel. So a bit more focus, understandably, has been put towards the F1 content. Sim racing will always be an influential part. I still love it, but I don't get as much free time to sit down and sim race anymore. In times gone past, I would have been doing sim racing now rather than chatting F1. But I'm on standby still. I've got the baby monitor here. And she's currently having a nap. And she will wake up probably in the middle of this stream. So... And I can't do that in a sim race. Well, I can, but of course I can be in the middle of a race and have to drop out of it, which is not ideal. So, the real issue on top of that is how his personality comes across. Apathy is all I get. Yeah. I thought F4 and F2 had equal cars. How did Lance have better parts, etc.? Well, you can have newer parts. You can have, there are ways to set up the car as well that is preferential to another car. There's ways, even with equal spec cars, to make them quicker. So, thank you. Yeah, 53k. Yeah, we're fastly growing. So your idea of the broadcast thing wasn't that bad. If I could change one rule in F1 to make it more exciting, what would it be? Ooh, I think that's... Yeah, now I think about it, that's quite easy. The overtaking rule. Change the overtaking rule to remove the ahead at the apex rule and make it like a lane system. I hate the overtaking rule in its current guise in the past few years where... If you're the inside car, you're entitled to base at the apex. If you're a certain position alongside the car, you're entitled to that racing room and you can drive the outside car off of the racing track. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. I think, unfortunately, provides us less wheel-to-wheel racing. We want to see more wheel-to-wheel racing. And... that has removed that, unfortunately. So we should head back more to a lane type system. So I do think that there should be like a point, and I've always said kind of really, I think a good, because you can't obviously have there is still a point where you turn into a corner, and if someone's like poked their nose in, they can't just go, well, I was there, they turned in on me. There comes a point where that car is on the inside trying to go for an overtake, has shoved their nose in where it doesn't belong, and they're deemed at fault. And I think what we should have is like a lane system to an extent. So if the car on the inside is able to get their front wheels alongside the rear axle, so the rear wheels of the car ahead, or maybe overlapping the rear wheels, I think that's a significant portion of the car on the inside to be entitled racing room. But the inside car is then not entitled to drive the outside car off of the racing surface. That's when then, okay, now racing room needs to be allowed by both cars as they go through this corner until they get to the next corner. That's how I think it should be utilised, which I think a lot of racing series implement very well. It just seems to be F1 doesn't. So, Andy, I imagine he also had access to teammate data, but it didn't have access to his. Yeah, there's many ways that you can improve one side of the garage and make them quicker than the other if they're technically in equal cars and have equal parts, you know. So I do agree with that, but it has to be just ahead of the braking zone. Yes, yeah. So not necessarily turning into the apex, but like, yeah, while you're under braking, and also you still have to be in control of your car. Like, you can't just go, well, my front wheels were there. Like, no, if the telemetry indicates, and this is the thing, is that, like, a lot of it comes down to common sense. Like, if the telemetry clearly indicates that you were always going to drive into the side of that car, this is what I don't like, to be honest. So let's say, as an example, here's a really good topic. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, turn 4, was it? The kink. You know, Lewis drove off the track. They investigated it after the race. Max Verstappen shoved the nose in. Lewis didn't turn in. He saw Max there and he avoided a collision. Lewis didn't turn up to the stewards afterwards and waved his rights, so they didn't give a penalty. That's a sort of scenario where I get it's a fine line, because I've never really liked it with F1 where they always penalise the outcome. They don't penalise the intention. So I compare it to football, soccer as an example. If someone goes in with a two-footed challenge, they get a red card. They get sent off. They get penalised for that. Even if the outcome is that the opposing player avoids the collision. There was intent there. There was intent that was unsafe. When it comes to motorsport, there was intent there to shove a nose in a position where his car wasn't significantly alongside Lewis's and didn't entitle him to racing room at a corner that was very fast. And it's only because of Lewis's awareness to avoid that collision that Lewis was sent into the barriers. And I think scenarios like that, you can detail that was a rash move and it at least is given a warning, maybe a 5-second penalty or something like that. Because there are plenty of times where there's intention, where someone has gone in. I mean, was it last year? Last year, Max drove into the side of Lewis, didn't he? Got launched down into turn 1, and the stewards actually stated, and I'll try and get this back up, the stewards actually stated that Lewis should have done more to avoid the incident. And Max didn't get I believe Max didn't get a penalty for it. Let's see if I can find it. And then this time around, they've then contradicted themselves again, because Lewis has avoided the incident. He's done what? He's done exactly what they told him he should have done the previous year, and then with the exact same driver, and that driver didn't get a penalty. So, hope you know where I'm coming from here, guys. I agree, but that's what F1 is, I guess, all show and drama, but racing rule-wise, it's kind of meh. You watched GTM the other day, and it was way better racing, yeah. Sounds like you had too many beers, Paul. How many pints down were you? Let me find this. Hang on. So yeah, I think that's the case in any motorsport series. I think if the telemetry is there, but someone's made a rash move and the other car has the situational awareness to avoid a collision, I get that in a sense you're penalising something that necessarily didn't happen, but you can clearly see that, well, if their trajectory was on the racing line and they didn't avoid that, and they didn't purposely avoid that collision and open the steering wheel, there would have been a collision. I think to a certain extent, the telemetry is overwhelming that would have happened. That driver has to be penalised. That's what I would like to see, but I get why people would be against it, because technically you're penalising something that didn't happen. But then we do see it in other sports series where intent is penalised. So, especially when it comes to obviously health and safety. Twitter F1 stewards report. What was it? Hungary, Hamilton, 2024. I think I've got it here. Hang on. Thanks to everyone tuning in, by the way. Just a chill Tuesday afternoon. Trying to find it. Come on. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. So this was it from last year. So they went. This is where obviously Max went over Lewis. It was clear that Car 1 locked up both front wheels on the approach prior to any impact occurring, but missing the normal cornering line for a typical overtaking manoeuvre. Car 44 stated that this was a racing incident, while the driver of Car 1 argued that this was a case of changing direction under braking. I mean, Lewis was just turning into the corner as he should do. The stewards did not consider this to be a typical case of changing direction under braking, although it is our determination that the driver of Car 44 could have done more to avoid the collision. What? Okay, so then this year, he's avoided the collision, and then the driver who could have sent him straight into the wall didn't. So, yeah. No worries, Gavin. Good to see you, mate. Maybe F1 cars need spikes sticking straight out the rear wheels. You predict Sainz redemption in the second half, EJ? I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a tricky remainder of the year for Sainz. That Williams isn't going to get any better. And I think he's already at quite a low point in this season. He might have some better performances, but I think for the most part, he's going to struggle still. And I think Williams are going to struggle as well. Alex Albon, of course, is still riding quite a high. He's still able to dig some good performances out of it. Of course, he's been at the team for considerably longer than Sainz. But yeah, it's not been a good year for Sainz. And I think Sainz is in a similar position to Lewis, where he's probably just looking forward to 2026 now. So, you're glad Sainz didn't go to Red Bull? Yeah, I mean, would he have got more out of that car than Yuki Tsunoda? Maybe. You'd expect him to, but Yuki obviously has done very poorly as well in that car. Let's have a look at the championships. I mean, Yuki's points is not very good, is it? I mean, how many times has he scored points this season in that car? Not many. I think he scored points once in that car, maybe twice, but it might be like a single point each. So Yuki's 18th at the moment, behind both Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar. He's on 10 points. So he scored 3 points in China, and that was with Racing Bulls. And then he scored. Okay, so he scored 1, 2, 3. Scored points in 3 races since then. 10th, Monaco 17th, Spain 13th, Canada 12th, 16th, 15th, 13th, 17th. Yeah, Hungary was terrible. Obviously, it was a terrible car, wasn't it? But that's not looking good for Yuki. And it's a real shame because he started off this year very strong. And he would be having a much better season if he stayed in that Racing Bulls. But you see why he had to take that opportunity. But we know that recency bias is really a thing in F1. And that people will just remember his performances in that second car. And it won't look so good up and down the paddock. So, which track do I think is the hardest to overtake? But I can't... What, from what we've seen this season thus far, or from the remainder of the season? There's lots of them, unfortunately, that we've seen this year, which have been difficult to overtake. We're going Zandvoort next week, which is tricky to overtake. There's only one overtaking spot there. Singapore is very tricky to overtake on, as we know, because it's a street circuit. Where else have we got left remaining in this season? I mean, even Monza, and it sounds crazy, but you see lots of DRS trains in Italy, in Monza, especially with the dirty air. It's tricky to stay close in like the rest of the track, so especially out the last corner. So it's more so under the pit stops. Qatar's always quite tricky to overtake on as well. So yeah, there's plenty of tracks, unfortunately, that we have remaining is still tricky to overtake. So. Lawson had to accept it also, yeah. The way James Vowles is typing about 26, if it turns out like Ferrari this year, I'll lose my mind. Very well, could they? Do I think Yuki will be a test driver for another team next year or just disappear like Perez for a year or more? I think he'll turn up at Aston Martin because purely because of the Honda connection. I think he'll end up there. I think it could be quite tricky for Yuki to make his way back onto the F1 grid after this season, to be honest with you. If he doesn't remain on the grid next year, I think it could be tough for him to get back on. Unless his route is through Aston Martin and the Honda connection, and they're like, look, Alonso leaves after 2026, which it most likely will be, and then Yuki steps in. That may be the case. I think that's his only route. I'm not sure with how the other rookies have come through this season. I think teams will look at bringing rookies through rather than maybe looking at more experienced drivers who haven't necessarily and many people obviously are big fans of Yuki, but I still don't think that he's done really enough to make him attractive to a lot of teams up and down the grid. I think they would much rather look at their own academy system rather than bring him on. That's just my personal opinion. But so I think for him, he needs to stay in that Red Bull seat for next year, which may be the case. It may be. Never know. I don't see it happening because of Ford coming in, Honda leaving, and we've had Jaron Lawson doing well. And with Arvid Lindblad coming in, one of those two is going to move up into Red Bull. And then I think Aston Martin is his only route. So Ferrari is literally just a meme at the moment. Yeah. Who else in the second Red Bull seat? I think for next year it will be... I think it could be Liam Lawson again. If Liam Lawson continues this run of form for the remainder of the season, because he seems like he's got a bit of his mojo back now, so he's now only 2 points behind Isaac Hadjar, 20 to 22. He's scored, so he scored points in Monaco, and in 3 of the last 4 races he scored points. Now, Silverstone, we know that where did he qualify in Silverstone? We know that he got caught in that 3 wide, didn't he? So he was 16th. He actually had a decent start. Yeah, he actually had a decent start, and him and Esteban Ocon got ahead of Yuki, and Yuki shoved his car down the inside, didn't he? Down into turn 4, and Liam was on the outside, didn't know he was in a 3 wide, and he obviously got a broken suspension. But I think if Lawson continues this form like he seems like he's on, where did he qualify in Canada as well? Was it a good qualifying in Canada? I can't remember if Canada was a good qualifying or not. No, qualifying was not a good one for him. But the last 4 races in particular, or the last 4 weekends have been much better, shall we say. If he continues that on, he could maybe get another opportunity again. Or it could be Isaac Hadjar. I think one of those two will get promoted, though. And then Arvid Lindblad will come in and take on one of those. So Liam was up to 10th. In what race was that, Max? Was that Silverstone he was up into 10th? In fairness, that was because a few people pitted on the formation lap, though. So you have to kind of... That wasn't necessarily fully on merit, but... No, Hadjar has been very consistent, but it's a long season. It is a very long season, and I think while Hadjar has had a brilliant rookie year, he also himself has said, I don't want to be rushed into Red Bull. Liam Lawson, his aim will be looking to get back in that second Red Bull seat sooner rather than later to stamp his authority down on it and prove that it was wrong to let him go in the first 2 races of the season. And that will be his aim. And if he can continue this on, and especially if he can overtake Isaac by the end of the season, he may get that opportunity again, and then Isaac may be in that Racing Bull seat alongside Arvid Lindblad for 26. But I think 2026 is a great opportunity for Isaac and Liam to be in that second Red Bull seat, because it is a fresh reset for the team, because it's a brand new set of regs. So, am I excited for 2026? I am. Yeah, I'm excited because it's the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. I get that question a lot in every single watch along. Is who's going to be quickest in 2026? How long's a piece of string? No one knows. It is a complete unknown. Everyone is thinking it's going to be Mercedes and the Mercedes-powered unit cars, so McLaren and Mercedes, because they dominated the last engine reg change. But there's no guarantee they're going to do that next year. So it could be Honda that smashes it, and Aston Martin are the team with Adrian Newey's input in the aero department that are the quickest. It could be Ferrari. Yes, Ferrari. Or it could be Red Bull. I've said this before, at the end of 2021, many thought that Red Bull had put too much time and resource into 2021, and that they actually hadn't focused enough time and effort on the new set of regs. And because they so badly wanted that championship win in 2021, that they were going to be suffering at the start of the new regs as a result. And how wrong everyone was with that sentiment, because they dominated the next few years. So it could very well be a similar case this time around, and Ford join in and they dominate again. All I want is that we get a scenario where it's not just one single driver who's dominant and wins a championship. We want multiple drivers, ideally from multiple teams, fighting for the championship. That's where it's interesting. But yeah, I think it could be really chaotic. So there should be lots of pace differentials, so more passing. 100%, yeah, and that's why we see more overtaking in the first year of regs. I mean, the 2026 cars as well, they are not having so it's still utilising ground effects, but the floors are not as well developed as what they are right now. So it's a bit more of a simpler design, active aero, no DRS as well, and it's going to be basically just completely different way of overtaking. So there are 2 groups of people in the world who deserve no sympathy: Team LH and FC Barcelona fans. I disagree with both of that, to be honest with you. I think there are a small proportion and a vocal minority, is what they call them, the vocal minority of every single set of fans, whether it be driver, teams, in any sports, that unfortunately say some unsavoury things, and their team, their players, their support, whoever they're supporting, can do no wrong. But that's where we're different here. We're a bit more open-minded, and that is why I think you guys like it here. So, how often do I stream Rainbow? Not as often as I'd like. I I stream every single race weekend, so FP1, all the practice sessions, every single session on a race weekend. I'm very fortunate that I can fit in. Sometimes I miss a practice session on a Friday because of work. I still have a full-time job that I have to attend to, a 9 to 5, an 8 till 5. And then I want to do more of this, more of just going live and just catching up. Now, I'm really surprised that we have not a lot more to talk about. It's been a very, very quiet first week of the summer break. Normally, there's a lot more that happens in F1, but I want to at least do this once a week, maybe twice a week, where we just go live and we just chat over a drink, over a cup of coffee, and we just chat and interact with you guys rather than just the race weekends, because I want to do that. It makes it easier for me doing content and clipping things down. But yeah, obviously with a little one, I have a 10-month/11-month-old daughter. It's tricky, of course, because my time and focus is on her and spending time with her. So, yeah. You keep hoping for a 2021 type season in 26. Got to admit that was edge of your seat level all season. No, I agree. I think we could do. I think we very much could do. It's like 30% ground effect Venturi downforce next year. There we go. Absolutely brilliant. That will provide much better racing for next year for sure. Stuffeyy has spawned and has a mini Stuffeyy. Yes, I have, yeah. Can I do like more of this and every Monday and Friday? That would be my plan, Rainbow. Yeah, I'm going to try and do... So I've got 2 more weeks off of paternity leave. I'm on parental leave at the moment. I've got 2 more weeks off, and then I'm back to reality, back at the day job. So yeah, I will try. It'd be unfortunately not daytime. It'd be an evening time for me, UK time. So apologies those of you who are on the other side of the world, down under. It would be, and those of you of course in India and Asia, it would be unfortunately early morning for you. But the benefit of live streams on YouTube is that you can watch them back. But yeah, I do want to do more of this. You think Drive to Survive Naughtius has brought in a lot more of those toxic fans? It has, yes. I think there's no denying of that. It has. This is what happens. Unfortunately, this is the downside of any sport gaining popularity, or anything really, and whether it be. I mean, let's be honest. On another flip side, Battlefield 6. I've been a staunch Battlefield 6 fan for many a year, and I haven't played them for quite some time, and it was the most popular thing in like the world, I think, especially in gaming this past week. And the toxicity I have seen online is just absolutely ridiculous. But that's because it's gained so much more popularity that people who have, obviously, social media gives everyone a voice, an opinion. And we know that negative opinions and so forth get more traction than positive ones, unfortunately. And that's the case with sports. And especially with people taking more interest in the drivers now as well and their private lives and things, you also see when there's not a lot going on in F1, that also gets a lot more focus. And people obviously get very attached. So, but it's also a small minority of people. Social media is also kind of like an echo chamber. As I've said before, I have had many positive experiences when chatting with F1 fans out in public. As I said, I go to work, and my project manager is a big Max Verstappen and Red Bull fan. And he knows that primarily I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan. And we have a bit of banter between us. Respectful banter. But we share ultimately a love of F1. And we talk all things F1, all things about the racing. And he has some good things to say about Lewis as well as I do about Max and vice versa. But it's all friendly banter, and that's most of the interactions that you'll have with people out in the real world when it comes to F1 fans and at racetracks as well. And social media is very much an echo chamber of people just typing behind a keyboard anonymously. So, yeah. Monetize, man, and quit that job. I'm trying, Rob. I'm trying. You know, man. Battlefield 6 went big, all right. Yeah, it did. It did. I really enjoyed it. I massively enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to this weekend as well, where the second weekend of the beta is out. I haven't felt that way about a first-person shooter game in a very long time, let alone a Battlefield game. So yeah, it was like I've been transported 10 years back in time. It was really enjoyable. And I'm actually missing it these days, these couple of days. As I said, the reason I kind of went live today is because I was just thought, there's not much going on, is there? So a lot of them end up following Max or Lewis, and the abuse and shots is at its peak. Well, it's not just them. There's plenty of Fernando Alonso fans out there who are like it. Colapinto. Every driver has their set of fans. You've seen Lando and Oscar Piastri fans go at each other, and you've seen Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton fans go at each other recently. I mean, it's non-stop, absolutely non-stop. And you can be guaranteed if all of a sudden Ollie Behrman was fighting for the championship with Pierre Gasly, those two sets of fans would be fighting at each other. Because the thing is, as drivers become more and more popular as well, they gain new fans, and people will just staunchly support them. But the thing is that not many people online are objective. They don't look... Their drivers and their teams can do no wrong, basically, rather than actually sit back and admit that, their driver was at fault there for that or whatever, or that wasn't necessarily a great performance for them. They're always looking for excuses, and that breeds more argument. It's just it's never ending, isn't it? So the game is good. Yes, it has some things that I'd like to change, Max. But yeah, 100% overall, it is great fun, and I'd highly recommend downloading the open beta for this weekend. Yeah, if you're a big fan of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, jump on it. It's brilliant. It's a bit more. It feels like it's a bit more fast-paced, but it's brilliant. So, as I said, haven't had that much fun in an online shooter in a very long time. So it's not just F1, man. It's no, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's the same thing across all sports. I mean, as I said, I'm a big golfer. I follow quite a few golf accounts, and people say it about golfers as well, and tennis players, cricket players, football especially. Like, we know how toxic football fans can be. So yeah, it's not just F1, but that's how obviously what happens with sports when they become more and more popular. Have I seen the F1 movie yet? No, I haven't. No, I've kind of missed the opportunity to go and see it in cinema. I'm just going to wait for it to come out on the streaming platform, and I'll watch it at home with the missus. We'll have a movie night, grab some snacks, bottle of wine, and watch it. So I also don't think I can sit back and sit in a cinema now because it's quite a long film. It's over 2.5 hours, isn't it? I don't think I can sit down for 2.5 hours and watch that film. I don't know why. Maybe because I know so much about the film as well. Maybe if it was like a fantasy film, I could sit. Like I sat down and watched Dune 2 for like 2.5 hours because I was immersed in that world, that escapism. But the F1 movie, I know I'm not going to be like that. So it's streamable end of this month or beginning of September. Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. No way people get toxic about golf. Oh, they do, Andy. Oh, they do. Yes, they do. I might need to pause it and make notes. I will watch it through the first time, and then I will maybe make some notes. I mean, I'm probably not going to have any new thoughts on it compared to what you've already heard from many other people already. Many other people online have already done their own reviews. I haven't listened to those reviews, to be honest, because I want to form my own opinion. I have an open mind going in and watching it. I know it's not going to be true to life. I know it's going to be dramatized. I know there's going to be some... I mean, in the end of the day, the main premise of the story, a 60-year-old getting back into F1, is just not... We know that's never going to happen in real life. So even that in itself, you need to go in there with an open mind and just enjoy it for what it is, which is just an action sports film. And I'm a bit of a geek where I like the cinematography of films and things like that. And I really like Top Gun Maverick, and I know that they've filmed it a similar way. And I'm just looking forward to seeing all the action shots, you know? So. No, I'm sure that... Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there's some things in the movie, Max, I'm going to raise my eyebrows at. But I still haven't watched the Gran Turismo film, and apparently the Gran Turismo film was laughable. No worries, Remo. Good to see you, mates. We'll be live again soon. I'll probably be live... As I said, I'm going to go live, hopefully, either Friday, it may even be Thursday, some point this weekend where I'm going to do my mid-season awards, guys. So be sure to tune into those. It'll be good fun. Get some community polls going. And yeah, we can see if we agree or not. But yeah, not too much happening at the moment. Little one's still asleep, which is good for me. Is there... I don't think there's... So, what else did I have really to talk about here? I didn't really have much planned. So, I mean, I looked at Motorsport. The only real article that they had up there that I thought was maybe worth looking at was the mistakes of Piastri and Lando, which we know about. It has been a real quiet week. The race have got their mid-season driver rankings. So how they did it, of course, is that they've obviously rated every single driver's performance, and then like, as each week has gone on, and then they've added those up and obviously created an average. Turns out, I think the most interesting thing for me with their rankings was when you get down to it. I think it was Fernando Alonso. I think Fernando Alonso's ratings were quite high. But, oh my God, this website is terrible now, by the way. How many adverts does the race want? Jesus, it's unreadable. It's absolutely unreadable. Yeah, the breaks are tough about F1 content. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to put content out there for the sake of it. If there's nothing to talk about, there's nothing to talk about. But that's why I thought we'd just go live. It's just easier to have a bit of a back and forth with you guys rather than it is try and find some content to make up, you know. But like, even if you go on the races website, they haven't got a lot to talk about. Oh, little one's awake. I mean, the race obviously are trying to find some things to talk about. So, as a Max and Ferrari fan, it's nice to have a 3-week break so I can have therapy. How will Ferrari make a comeback? Sort out their ride height issues so that they don't have to sacrifice the performance of the car mid-race to ensure that they don't get disqualified. That would help. What changes do I think will Red Bull and Mercedes be bringing into the season post-break? I really don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know if they will. I'd be very surprised if we see any updates for teams in the near future, or for the remainder of the season. They may just be accepting that, to an extent, they still have shareholders and stakeholders and that they have to keep happy, who aren't necessarily invested in Formula One that heavily, and they just look at performances. Like, they don't know that, the development focus is for 2026. They still have those that they have to keep happy to ensure that they don't divest their shares and that. So maybe they will bring updates, but there won't be any major updates. It may be like a front wing change or a side pod change, like something that's not going to be costly, put it that way. But yeah, nothing too dramatic. I haven't seen any news on any new updates that may be coming in the coming races. Of course, Zandvoort is very similar to Hungary, so maybe Red Bull will bring something to Hungary. I'd be very surprised if maybe they don't, because it's Max's home track and he wants to do well there, and we saw how they performed at Hungary, and it's not going to be... It's a similar sort of circuit, so they weren't fair as well as that. We know how poorly they suffered at Hungary, so... It's a decent movie, Alan. The instant DRS rocket ship overtaking his pure Hollywood license. I think F1 season is done. Just give Piastri his award and let's start 26 early. It's not over yet. Was Ferrari really fast? Charles did get pole in Hungary. No, they weren't really fast. They were fast in those specific conditions in Q3. So what happened in Q3 is that the wind direction changed and the wind picked up, and it made the McLaren more sketchy in that Q3 session. It benefited Charles, and it just so happened that in that session, when it matters, Charles got pole position. Now, you still have to get it done, but the Ferrari is not the quicker car overall. If you look at Q2, I think the fastest time, which was set by Lando, was like a 14.8. So it was nearly half a second quicker in Q2 than what it was in Q3. So, yeah, that's what... That the Ferrari wasn't particularly quicker. Now, could they have won the race on Sunday? No. They were just never going to be as decent on their tyres as the McLaren, as we know that the McLaren is. But, yeah, they... it only would have been a matter of time before Piastri eventually got Charles, even without the issues of increasing tyre pressures and changing the engine mode and stuff, and the battery deployment to ensure that there was less wear on the plank. So, yeah, it only would have been a matter of time before either of them got them. And we know that Lando did the one stop anyway and held on to track position, and he was never going to get caught by the Ferrari. So, do I think Aston Martin could go for the World Constructors' Championship and World Drivers' Championship if they bring a good car? Any team can next year. Got Dark. Yes, any team can make a decent car next year and be fighting for that championship. It's a real unknown. Is there anything to watch now, but there is no F1? Not from, sports-wise, motorsports. Not what I can think of off the top of my head. I think everything's on a break at the moment. Unless... Is there a World Endurance Championship race going on? I don't think so. I think it's pretty quiet the next couple of weeks. I think MotoGP might be on. Charles going from P1 to 20 seconds behind P3 should have criminal investigations launched. Yeah. Few upgrades come in, but there could be track-specific things already in the pipeline. Yeah, I think updates-wise, there'll be small items. It would be... As I said, like a front wing, and it still costs money, of course, but it is still close in the constructors. So there still is money to be won there for the teams, and there are plenty of companies that are just invested and sponsors of F1 because they want to be associated with F1, or because someone high up is a fan of F1, and people ultimately will just look at the team, where their position is, where they're finishing in a race, and on paper, the end result still does matter. And they would not like to see their team finishing 5th or 4th. They want to see them finishing, as high up as possible. What was the issue that Charles was having? Didn't he say some issues with the chassis? So that was the excuse they gave afterwards. It's pretty much general consensus is that they're having issues with the ride height and with the plank wear. It's been an issue that's been ongoing since the start of the season. It's why Lewis Hamilton got disqualified in China. And they made changes mid-race to ensure that they didn't get disqualified with the plank wear. So they increased the tyre pressures in Charles's second set of tyres and third set of tyres. So that's why he was complaining about like a lack of grip and a lack of performance. So when you increase the tyre pressures, you're less contact patch basically on the track surface, which means you have a lack of grip, which means that he's going slower and sliding in the corners, which is why he was saying it's undrivable. There's also data to suggest that they turned the engine mode down, or they altered the engine mode so that there was more deployment out of the last corner, and then it peaked and was slower down into the braking zone of turn 1. So that means obviously less downforce supplied to the car, which means the car isn't grounding out as much. So there was changes that they made to ensure that the car wouldn't get disqualified. However, those changes cost Charles a considerable amount of performance, which he was very vocal about on the radio. They haven't admitted this, but this is kind of the general consensus from kind of like the community, the technophobes and stuff, because of the previous evidence that we have with them having issues with the plank wear. And it's not difficult sometimes to just join the dots up. There's very knowledgeable people out there now who know that, yeah, if you wanted to raise the ride height mid-race, that's how you do it. But there's going to be a significant trade-off in performance. So, yeah. She's gone back to sleep. That's not too bad. But yeah, to be honest, guys, I think that's it. there's not really much else to talk about. It's been nice to go live with you guys, though. Yeah, there's no breaking news while we're on here at the moment to share with you guys. I just wanted to go live and have a conversation with you all. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I'm just looking to see if there is anything happening. Apparently, Auto Racer Italia has said, following Vasseur's contract extension, Lewis Hamilton wants certain changes in the technical and human management team, particularly those overseeing the car's operations on track. Yeah, I definitely would as well. So, Max, they lowered the engine mode, and the last stop they went on to higher tyre pressures. You can see the overhead of George overtaking and sparking past Charles, not sparking. Good to see you doing well. Hope I'm sleeping. Yeah, I've slept better recently. She went through some sleep regression recently, the last few weeks, which is tough. I've been up multiple times in the evening, most nights. And that's because she's been starting to want to walk around. She can't walk on her own yet. She's in like a baby wheeler, stroller type thing, like walker type thing, but she zooms about in her own set of wheels. When we hold her up by her hand, she starts to walk. So because of that, her brain has been on overdrive, bit of teething as well. So, but the last couple of nights, fingers crossed, have been much better. So yeah, hopefully I'm going to get some more sleep in the next couple of weeks before I go back to work. But it's all fun and games, though. It's all good to see the development. Do I think there is any truth in rumours that McLaren may be hindering Oscar's setup to give their star driver a better chance at the World Drivers' Championship? No, I don't agree with that at all, Alan. They will have access to each other's data, as teammates do now these days. And Oscar likes to drive a certain way that is a little bit different to Lando, from what I understand. I don't know the specifics behind it. So they are taking difference in approaches to certain race circuits, because that's what they prefer. There is no hindrance there. I'd be very surprised if there is. We have seen plenty case in points where there has been opportunities for them to favour Lando, and they haven't. So they are being given equal treatment, and whether Oscar decides to go for a certain setup or a certain chassis or a certain suspension option, and it doesn't work out for him, that is down to his decision and his side of the garage's decision, and the same thing for Lando as well. So yeah, I don't think there's anything in relation to that. I think personally, that is just I think that's just fans looking for excuses for when their driver doesn't win a race. Simple as. You see it. I've seen that when Lando wins a race, Oscar fans say they're favouring Lando, and when Oscar wins a race, Lando fans say they're favouring Oscar. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Not a mini cart. She's only 11 months old. I don't have the room. I've only got a 2-bed flat. I don't have the room for her to zoom around that much in a car yet. So, Max, you had your CFO in Singapore. He had a new baby and he was at work at 6:30 a.m. every day. We didn't start until 9 a.m. I mean, I've been very fortunate. She sleeps very well. She's always slept very well. But yes, babies all go through sleep regression. Whenever they're learning new skills, they have sleep regression. So, but she's now fully awake and crying. So yeah, that's my cue to end this stream, guys. It's been a pleasure as always. Nice to go live. Keep an eye out. Have your notifications turned on, because I will be going live later on this week with our mid-season awards. It'll be a bit more interesting. We'll have some community polls in stream so that you guys can get voting on the nominations, which are by myself, and yeah, should be some good content for you all. So yeah, have a lovely rest of your day, guys, and we will see you later on in the week. If there's breaking news that happens tomorrow or in the coming days, of course, with F1, it may do, it may not. Then I will jump on and do a live stream for you all. So that's my intention now, is to go live and have this interaction with you all more moving forward. So yes, have a good day, guys. Bye.